welcome back to the 90-Day Novel Challenge. My name is Brad Pauquette, and this is day 8 and week 2 of the 90-Day Novel Challenge. Hopefully you had a great day of rest yesterday. And of course, as you run through the 90-Day Novel Challenge, if your schedule works out differently, feel free to shift that day off to wherever it fits appropriately in your schedule. But today, it is time to move into a new week, which means that we are moving into the planning and development process of your novel. Last week, we spent all week talking about novel plot structure and conflict and characters and the universe. And those are your 4 major building blocks for designing a complete novel-length story. So we explored those ideas in some depth last week, and now it's time to put those ideas to use for your work so that you can have a great plan as you move forward, and you'll be confident as you go into that writing stage, which is going to carry you through to the end. So first thing that I want you to do is invite God into this work that you're doing. God can use all kinds of stories for his glory, and we've seen that throughout history. One of my favorite examples is Harriet Beecher Stowe, who wrote Uncle Tom's Cabin. And she was taking communion in her brother's Presbyterian church, and she was taking communion, and she was overcome by the Holy Spirit in this Presbyterian church and fell down, and she had a vision of a slave dying of thirst. And that inspired the story of Uncle Tom's Cabin, which galvanized the abolitionist movement and in many ways brought public opinion behind, the North entering into the Civil War, which is crazy. So much so that Abraham Lincoln, years later, when he met Harriet Beecher Stowe, said to her, "So you're the little woman who started this great big war." That's crazy, right? The impact that one fictional story that God was invited into could have on the world. And your story is no different. The potential is exactly the same. So at this point, we are going to take all these concepts and apply them to your novel. The first thing I want you to do is get the worksheets from novelmatrix.com so that you can put this stuff, you can put pen to paper and begin to see the pieces take shape. You can also get the Novel Matrix workbook off of Amazon if that's going to have professionally printed and bound worksheets so that everything stays together nicely and organized. It also has some instructions to guide you through the process that I think will be very helpful. So you can check out that resource on Amazon or find links to that as well at novelmatrix.com. But there are free versions of all of these worksheets for you. I want you to have them so that you can produce a great story. So again, the 4 building blocks of story, the 4 essential elements that every story must have are a plot structure, conflict, characters, and a universe. So you're going to find those 4 worksheets at novelmatrix.com. Each one is a different worksheet, so make sure that you get all of them. And the process from here is both complex, but also exceedingly simple. You are going to take what you've been brainstorming for the past week, and you're going to start to fill in those boxes. So my recommendation is start with what you know. There really isn't a right or wrong order to fill in the worksheets. By the end of your planning process, you need to have all of the spots plugged in. You need to have everything filled out. You need to have 5 conflicts. You need to have identified who's going to fill each of these 7 character archetypical functions. You're going to need to know the big moments on your 3-act structure, like the rock bottom moment, the Icarus moment, and the epiphany. So by the end of it, you're going to have all of it. But here's why it's complex. It's a little bit like one of those sliding block Japanese puzzles. You know the ones I'm talking about where it's like a picture, but you can only see one little part of the picture, you can only move one little block of the picture at a time, and there's only one empty hole. So you got to slide things around until the whole thing fits. That's essentially the game that you're playing with your novel plan at this point. You are going to start again by filling out what you know. So in your brainstorming, there's probably an element of the plan that's really strong. Like perhaps you just love some of your characters, or some of the twists on your plot that you want to employ. Some people, as I've mentioned before, they come in and there's some kind of topic that they want to talk about, some big issue that they want to discuss. And maybe they don't even know what the story is yet, but they just know that they want to write a book about abortion or gun control or the legal system or a theological thing that's important to them. If that's the case, then your natural place to start would be the big world philosophical conflicts. So you're going to start with what you know, and then you're going to fill out from there, one step at a time, brainstorming through the process until all of the puzzle pieces are in place. In this process, it's really important that you work in pencil. Metaphorically, of course, dry erase boards work wonders as well. But you're going to move pieces around. You're going to fill out all your conflicts, and then you're going to be going through your plot structure, and you're going to realize that maybe something doesn't work, or maybe there's an even better opportunity that you hadn't considered yet. And so then you go back to your conflicts and you erase the ones that don't work any longer or aren't the best that they can be, and you fill them out. And so, again, those four elements: universe, plot, conflicts, and character. You're comparing each of those elements to all of the other sheets that you have available, until you feel like all of the pieces fit just right. And when you find problems, you're going through the process and you're working on the plot, and suddenly you realize, oh man, well, the sidekick I had planned, that doesn't work at all anymore. That's a terrible idea. That's not a time for frustration. That's a time for celebration, because every problem that you discover at this stage in the process saves your butt 30,000 words from now. Tell me this: do you want to discover that problem now, or would you rather discover that problem after you've spent 6 weeks writing the manuscript and now you have 30,000 words of content that has to be revised to match the new solution? Well, of course, you want to find that problem now. At NASA, they try to find and predict all of the problems with the space shuttle prior to strapping the astronauts in and launching them off into space. So you're in the exact same position. In fact, that's a big part of why we do the planning now, is to expose the problems, the parts of your story that won't work, so that you don't write yourself into a hole later on. Now, at this point, I just want you to begin by marking the big elements. Through the week, we're going to further develop this and get to the scene level. But even when we get there, one of the beauties of the novel matrix system is that we're not trying to create a rigid outline that tells you exactly what you have to do at every point, beat by beat. So you essentially turn your own work into this weird paint by number exercise. Instead, we're putting the grand systems in place, but how you get from place to place, there's still freedom and flexibility in there. And that gives you the opportunity that when you sit down to write, you still have creativity and inspiration that you can apply in that moment. And it's not just getting from, doing this to this to this, but rather, the big picture now, and you can sit down and you can decide exactly how that takes shape. You can allow your characters to do that thing where they somehow become themselves, right? And the characters begin to take shape and surprise you on the page. We're still going to allow that flexibility in the plan. So as you do this, don't feel like you're creating these rigid channels and everything is going to have to follow that. Just trust me, and we'll work through the process through this week, and you're going to find that you still have tons of creativity and flexibility. But like we've discussed, you are going to know that the story works before you start. Here's why this is important. This is important because there are millions of manuscripts on hard drives around America that have 10 to 25,000 words on them. Actually, I call this the Valley of the Shadow of Death. There's this place, it's usually around 15,000 words in the manuscript, where writers give up. And the reason that we give up, it's probably many reasons, but largely it's because we get frustrated and tired or bored with the manuscript. 15,000 words in, you've it's not exciting anymore. This is a marathon, okay? I promise, no matter how excited you are today, it's going to take discipline and resolve to push through that valley of the shadow of death so that you actually finish the manuscript. And because 2-3 weeks into the writing, 4 weeks into the writing, you're going to get to this place where you're not excited about it. Your friends and your family who have been listening intently while you talk about this, they're starting to lose interest in this. And so it's so easy at that point to say, you know what, I'm not even sure that this was a good idea. This is stupid. And then you just kind of lose interest. Maybe you say, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to think about it a little bit, and then I'll come back. And you know what? most people never come back. Having a plan changes all of that. When your brain is like, are we sure we want to do this? This was a bad idea anyways. That thing that brains do like that? The best ammunition you have is to say, no, actually, we did a lot of hard work up front and we made a good plan. This is a story that works. And I don't really care if it's not perfect yet. I don't care if the writing's not quite as good as it could be yet. This is still a story that works. And I'm going to get this thing on the page because I have that confidence in my plan. And once something is on the page, then I can revise it and make it all that it can be. So this plan is going to push you through that period when the doubts and the discouragement and the boredom and the frustration fit in. This is your antidote to those negative feelings that are sure to crop up as you get fatigued in the process. So take the time to do this. Again, you get started at novelmatrix.com. You can download all the worksheets there or purchase the workbook, and everything will be nicely bound and prepared for you, and you can just get straight to work. So that's your assignment for today, is get a hold of those worksheets and start the planning process. You don't have to finish it tonight. Just put in a good faith effort to finish out the hour today, filling in what you know. This isn't supposed to happen in one session. So fill out the things that you know. Let the others just sit for a minute. Let it percolate in your brain. Your brain's so good at this. So just give it a little bit of time while you rest and you do the dishes and you drive your car and things like that, and come back, fill in the other boxes as they occur to you. And over the next few days, we're going to make a plan that is awesome and that you're going to be happy to move forward with. So I will see you tomorrow as we move into day 9. Until then, happy writing and be blessed.